Well, hello again. And today I would like to tell you the story about the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's the story of the pendant that I'm wearing. And I'll just kind of give you a closer view of that's the phoenix rising from the ashes. And today I'm going to tell you how I came to have that pendant and what it means. But before I tell you the story of the phoenix rising from the ashes, I was just thinking, over the last couple of weeks of something that happened to me when I was just a little kid. And I was probably, I'm guesstimating now, but it's one of my first memories, vivid memories. And I was probably about 3, I would say. I'm guesstimating, but maybe 3, maybe 4, but in that area. But anyway, my dad had this car, and I think it was a black car, as I remember, and we drove. It was somewhere in Toronto, but we drove to this creek, this river, and I think he wanted to wash his car. But I remember it being a beautiful day, but the river was flowing and there was rapids, and I was wading out into the river. And I just remembered as a little kid, I couldn't swim or anything like that. I mean, I'd never even been like in a pool or in water before. But anyway, all of a sudden, I remember the current took me away. And I remember just floating down this river like head first. And I was totally out of control. I mean, there was nothing I could do. And I remember there was a calmness, and this all happened within, like a few seconds, maybe 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. But anyways, and here I am, I'm floating down this river within the rapids, and all of a sudden this hand grabs my foot and pulls me up, and that was my father. And I remember that vividly. I really do. It's kind of one of my first memories, going back to that time. But anyway, the story of the pendant, the phoenix rising from the ashes, I kind of have to explain it a little bit before, but it has to do with a song I wrote. And this was when I was going through the valley of the shadow of death. This was at a time when I've said many times I was lower in a snake's belly at the end of a rope, and I had my heart ripped out more often than some people change their underwear. But I was really going through the valley of the shadow of death. I mean, in spades. And at that time, one thing that I had was, I've written songs in my life. Maybe I've written 50 songs, but I wrote a kind of a unique song. It was called The Phoenix Rises from the Ashes. Now, to explain the song so that you might understand what I'm talking about in this podcast is, I had this image in my mind of the phoenix being my higher power, God as I understand God. And this phoenix was a bird that was maybe 10 or 12 feet high, a huge, powerful bird. And I had this image in my mind of me on the back of this phoenix, riding on the back of the phoenix, and my arms were kind of around the phoenix neck. And I was holding on to this huge bird, and this bird was just rising from the ashes. And the two of us were rising from the ashes. And it was kind of like an image I had of me kind of rising out of this horrible depression that I was in. So I wrote this song, and now I'll just, I never recorded the song. One thing I regretted, but anyway, I'm going to read you the words to that song right now. The phoenix rises from the ashes, and I on your shoulders rise from the ashes, holding on. Together we rise, and soon will be our time to soar. The journey has been long, with many lows so low that it could and should have been the end. But you never left me, and we always rose up to live again. The phoenix rises from the ashes, and I on your shoulders rise from the ashes, holding on. This will be, for sure, our time to soar. I'm holding on. So rise, Phoenix, rise. I feel your strength and power. I feel your might. I feel it in me, passion flowing, heart on fire. I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's fly away. Fly away. I'm scared. I'm frightened. My heart is pounding, but I'm ready for to go anywhere to where I do not know. I know this will be a far, far better place than we have ever known. This will be our finest hour. So, anyway, that's the song that I wrote. And I'm not a musician and I'm not a singer. So whenever I wrote a song, I would have to practice it over and over and over just to get it so I could kind of play it so that I could show people what I had written. And with this song, I played it thousands upon thousands of times over and over. And kind of for me at that time, it was a bit of a therapy. I would probably spend maybe an hour every day practicing this song. And I would sing this song when people would come over. I say, "Hey, I wrote a song," you know. And I even sang the song at Bob Pickering's Kitchen Folk Festival. But for a long period of time, for many, many months, this song kind of was an anchor uh, for me, because when I was doing that song, I was kind of at peace and I kind of had hope. And I didn't realize that till a long time after. But what I really realized was that the song that I'd written was actually a prayer um, to my higher power. It was actually a prayer that, but anyway, during that, when I was walking through the valley of the shadow of death, that was something that every day I could at least have that hope. And I would sing that song over and over. That was 5 or 6 years ago. And it was kind of like after maybe a year and a half, it was all of a sudden like at one point in time, it was like my higher power grabbed my leg and pulled me out of the water and said, "Okay, kid, it's time to start soaring." Quite literally, it was just like that. And when I started recovering, when I started growing, my growth was just like exponential. I mean, it was just, but not only that, and it wasn't all at once, it was gradual. But I mean, it keeps going and going and it keeps getting better all the time. I don't know where the end, I don't think there will be an end. As long as I'm alive, I think I will be on that path, as long as I choose to be on that path. But one thing that kind of ties in with the story of the phoenix rising from the ashes, which has been kind of like the story of my life, especially over the last 5 or 6 years. And that was 5 or 6 years ago when I wrote that song. And as I was walking through the valley of the shadow of death. But since that time, my growth has just been incredible. And I've never been happier than I am today. But I've just been thinking over the last few months that I think perhaps my greatest time of growth is ahead of me. I'm just this weekend, as a matter of fact, I took a 4-day seminar with Gabor Mate, one of my mentors, and he was mentioning something, and talking about our recovery depends upon getting our identity back and becoming the people that we were meant to be, and that's the cause of addiction, and it was the cause of my depression, my codependency. But one thing he was saying, which kind of I've been thinking about for the last few months, is that we have to come to the point in our growth to be the people we are. We have to learn to say no. It's okay to say no. And that's one thing as kids growing up, we were forced into agreeing with things. We were forced into becoming people pleasers. We were forced into becoming reactors, you know? And this is what brought us down and crippled us. And, you know, we weren't allowed to say no, you know, and to get our identities back. And Gabriel Maté was just bringing that up. And it's such a powerful thing. And you know, even though I've been moving along that path, I mean, I'm just realizing that what we're going through now is probably the greatest time of trouble that anybody on earth has ever faced, whether you realize it or not. It's here. And the challenge is to step up to the plate. And I'm realizing that probably my greatest growth will be, you know, in the future, as long as I'm alive. And the other thing too is like being a people pleaser, you know. And I've done a lot of work on, because I was a huge people pleaser, and that, you know, it just wasn't me. And now I just kind of, it makes me ill to think about, you know, being a people pleaser. But I mean, like now the biggest challenge in all our lives, you know, like the real kahuna is here, you know. Are you going to be a people pleaser, or are you going to be the person you were meant to be? And Gabor was talking today too about Jehovah. You know, the meaning of Jehovah is I am. I am. And our growth, becoming the people we're really meant to be, is I am the person I was meant to be. And I'm going to be the person that I am, and not be a people pleaser. So I can have the power to say no, you know? And this is going to be the challenge. This is going to be probably the biggest challenge. And like Martin Luther King said, I may not get there. I've seen the promised land, but I may not get there. But as a people, I believe we will get there, you know? And that's what it looks like the next big challenge. So I think my real growth, this path that I'm on, I think that, you know, like it said in the song, this will be our finest hour. And I have to say, you know, I'm scared. I'm frightened. My heart is pounding, like quite literally. I mean, this is the real deal. This is where, am I going to be the person? Am I going to be the person I was meant to be? Am I going to step up to the plate and be the person I was meant to be? I'm determined that that's the way it's going to be. I've kind of made that decision. So anyway, that's the story of the phoenix rising from the ashes. And it's a story that continues. And this is really exciting stuff. I mean, this is so powerful. This is so exciting. And this is so real. And I'm just telling you the truth. Of my life anyway. This is my story. This is what I'm learning. This is, and this is the work I do, is I help people to understand these things. But anyway, that's the story. And I'll just give you one more look before I go, of the phoenix rising from the ashes. You know, I wear this all the time. I never take it off. And it's only once in a while that somebody asks me, you know, what it is. So anyway, so now I'm telling all of you. But anyway, I'll leave you with the immortal words of Che Guevara. He said, hasta la victoria siempre. We'll see you next time.